It's a lot.
Yeah.
All right, Rex.
Yeah, when he came out, did we win? We needed that.
Yeah.
As fans, we needed it. I mean, this guy is a legend. A legend. You talk about a fighter? Yeah. Dang right, he's a fighter. He's a dang legend. Thank you. I needed it as a dad, as a coach, and as a fan of this game.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you don't.
In the scrum, I've only watched it on video. I was surprised that he would handle it like that. This was a response to what Rex Ryan said, and this was a reaction to that. And we have to sometimes remember that these are very, very young men. People come into the NFL with different levels of maturity. These are young guys, and not all of them speak the same way. And some of them, I think, just have different personalities too. I don't think Shedeur meant any harm.
Shadur Sanders saga is a lose-lose situation. He gets interviewed and he gives a thoughtful answer and he actually answers the question. Then we're nitpicking, not we, but the media's nitpicking and trying to find something wrong out of that. And then when he does this, says nothing at all, obviously trolling Rex Ryan for his comments, people come out and say he's a child, he's immature, this is why he slipped in the draft. I get what he was doing, right? He's trying to say, when I say something, you guys hate it, right? So I'm not gonna say anything at all. He was trolling Rex Ryan. But in my opinion, I don't agree with this, Shedeur. I mean, they're gonna like and hate you anyway. Just be you. Because with the antics, all you're doing is proving the haters right. See? This is why he can't be trusted.
He didn't say a single word. And yet, Shadur Sanders might have delivered the loudest message of the entire NFL offseason. One moment, he's quietly miming through a press conference. The next, he's the center of a national meltdown. A fired-up ex-coach is lobbing shots on live TV. A seasoned NFL reporter claps back with surgical precision. And the internet? It chooses sides like it's the Super Bowl. But here's the twist. This wasn't just about a player being cocky or immature. Nope, this was something else. A media war, a spotlight trap, a masterclass in saying everything by saying nothing. Because the louder the critics shouted, the more that silence started making sense. Today, we're diving deep into the moment that lit NFL Twitter on fire. How Rex Ryan fumbled his take, how Mary Kay turned into a one-woman wrecking crew.
I see a guy that seems to be doing things all the right way, but Rex is implying something very different, and it's almost like this question of, is Shedeur to blame for not being ahead of Dylan Gabriel on the depth chart? Is he to blame for not being as ready as he said last week he thinks he is to potentially be a starting quarterback in this league?
The whole quote was so strange. Like, the whole, like, if I know the whole league knows, like, did somebody inside Berea give that to Rex Ryan? That's what I really want to know. And I know that I'll never get that answer.
And why Shadour's silent act might just be the smartest move of his career. This isn't just sports. It's optics, reputation, power, and one wildly misunderstood moment that flipped the narrative upside down. Let's get into it. Rex Ryan didn't hold back. Live on ESPN, the former NFL coach laced up his verbal cleats and came in swinging hard. His target? Shadur Sanders. Now, let's be clear, Rex has never been shy about making bold statements. This is the same guy who predicted Super Bowl wins every season with the Jets and delivered press conferences like they were stand-up comedy specials. But this time, his usual fire hit a nerve. He called Shedeur an embarrassment, said he should be ashamed for not starting, mocked his confidence, criticized how he talks, how he acts, even how he crossed his arms during press conferences. And then came the knockout line. If I know he's not ready, the whole league knows. Those weren't just X's and O's. That was a swing at personality, at character, and at maturity. To fans, it sounded less like analysis and more like a personal attack. Shedeur hadn't said anything at the mic literally, but Rex came after him like he'd gone on a media tour trashing the entire league. And that's where things started to shift. Here's the thing.
I do want to reiterate real quick what Shedeur said, and I know I said it, but I just want to be clear so all Shedeur said basically to ESPN Cleveland that he was ready to play right now. And he said, if you see the quarterback play in the league right now, I know I'm capable of doing better than that. So I know we talked about Rex Ryan's comments, and then we've just seen the media criticize a lot of what Shedeur does, but why do you think, Mike, and I'll let you go first, people have such a problem with that statement?
I'm baffled. If he said anything else, we would jump on it and be all over him like, well, how come you don't have any confidence? That's why you're not playing. So each man, every man that's not on the football field every man in the National Football League has to believe that he is good enough to play in the National Football.
Everyone knows hot takes are part of the job in sports media, but there's a difference between critiquing a quarterback's performance and going after who they are. Rex didn't just question the kid's mechanics, he questioned his presence, his patience, his professionalism, and he did it without presenting a single fact beyond a viral clip. It felt loud, it felt forced, and above all, it felt uncalled for. The internet caught fire within minutes. One side piled on, echoing Rex's points. The other pushed back, asking, "Where is this coming from? Was Rex just making noise? Or was he saying out loud what a lot of NFL insiders were quietly thinking?" Either way, the damage was done. This went from drama to a dog pile. And in that moment, a veteran analyst looked less like an expert and more like a guy throwing punches in the dark. But what Rex didn't expect was someone to fire back with grace, insight, and a sharper edge than any hot take he'd ever dropped. And that someone was Mary Kay. When Mary Kay Cabot spoke, you could almost feel the air leave the studio. While Rex Ryan came crashing in like a wrecking ball, Mary Kay didn't raise her voice. She didn't get personal, she just calmly lit his entire take on fire. And she did it without breaking a sweat.
Ryan, when I got aware, I did the homework on him a long time ago though, and because he was always loud as the Jets coach, and he's always predicted that they was gonna go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. Every year, this is the year we're gonna do it. This the year we're gonna do it. This the year we're gonna do it. And you just brought that up, Mike, in your tape. Nigga, you loud, Rex. As a coach, you're loud as a coach, and especially as a commentator, you're very loud and you take bold takes. So when Mace asks, was it clout chasing? I don't think it's clout chasing, this is just what he do.
This wasn't Twitter-fingered ranting or emotional fan speak. Mary Kay is a veteran NFL reporter who's been in locker rooms, at practices, on calls with coaches, and sitting through boring film sessions the public never sees. She's not just some guest trying to go viral, she lives this league. So when Rex Ryan called out Shadur Sanders, accusing him of being immature, embarrassing, and undeserving of a starting job, Mary Kay didn't just disagree, she dissected, piece by piece. Her response came with poise and facts. She reframed the situation entirely. Yes, Shedeur is QB3 right now. Yes, his media behavior caught attention, but what Rex was ignoring? The context, and the reality that Shedeur is navigating the most intense microscope anyone in his position has faced in years. Mary Kay pointed out something critical Rex never touched. This isn't just any backup quarterback trying to prove himself. This is Deion Sanders' son. Every camera is on him. Every quote becomes a headline.
He's a dynamic player. He's got a lot of personality. He has done a lot of things right here. He's working really, really hard to come up the learning curve. And this is the first time in his life and his career that he's had to be a backup. And it's difficult. He's trying to be patient. He's trying to do the right things, but it cannot be easy for him to believe that he can go out there and start football games and have to be the third string quarterback right now.
Every gesture spins into a hot take within seconds. So when he chooses silence, it's not necessarily defiance, it's control. She reminded viewers that Shedeur was respectful during training camp, supportive of teammates, and serious about his growth. She even revealed a behind-the-scenes story. Shadur once waited to speak with media, deliberately holding back so he wouldn't interrupt a teammate's moment at the podium. That's not immaturity. That's awareness. By the time she was done, the entire table looked stunned. It felt like Rex had shown up with a hammer. Mary Kay, on the other hand, brought a scalpel. She reminded everyone how easy it is to judge from a distance, especially when a player doesn't fit media expectations. And just like that, momentum shifted. The internet started recutting the clip Mary Kay's defense over slow-motion shots of Rex's reaction, music swelling in the background like he'd just lost a final boss battle. She didn't just stand up for Shedeur. She exposed how easily loud voices can distort the truth. And the best part? She did it all while keeping it cool, collected, and absolutely lethal. You've seen the clip by now. Shadur Sanders walks into a media scrum after practice. Reporters lean in, mics are up, cameras rolling. Everyone's braced for a headline, a soundbite, something. But instead, Shedeur says absolutely nothing.
Is one of an outstanding coach, all right? But why the hell isn't he putting Shadur Sanders? We're all waiting to see the Shadur Sanders be the guy or Gabriel, whatever. Something's missing. Something's missing with this kid. This kid talks. He runs his mouth like I could be a starting quarterback with his arms crossed like this. Get your ass in the front row and study and do all that. If I know, the whole league knows. Quit being an embarrassment that way. You got the talent to be the quarterback. You should be. You should be embarrassed that you're not the quarterback now.
Not a word. What he gives instead is a silent performance, a string of exaggerated hand gestures, miming, zipping his lips, pointing at reporters, folding his arms. It almost looks like a choreographed skit, part comedy, part protest, all confusion. Within hours, the internet explodes. Diva. Childish. He's not even the starter. Immature antics, this is why he slid in the draft. The noise grew louder than anything Shedeur ever could have said. But here's the irony most people missed. Shedeur knew exactly what he was doing. According to those around the team, this wasn't some spur-of-the-moment meltdown or immature outburst. This was calculated. The mimes, the silence, the body language, that was on purpose. A message without a mic. A middle finger to the narrative without even lifting one. And you know what makes it work? He stayed silent. He let everyone else fill the silence with their own assumptions. He didn't give them a quote to twist. He didn't offer a clip to take out of context. He said, "If you're going to turn everything I say into controversy, then fine, I'll say nothing." It takes a rare kind of control to pull that off. Especially under pressure, most 2 one-year-olds would fold beneath. And let's not ignore the fact. Shedeur's last name is Sanders. He's not just playing football, he's playing expectations, legacy, headlines, and haters. Every move is amplified. Mary Kay later revealed that during training camp, Shedeur would sometimes avoid speaking specifically to protect teammates' moments or avoid giving media fresh ammo. He's not hiding, he's picking his battles.
So, Rex Ryan, who used to be a coach, who is now on ESPN, has a little viral video that's going around.
This kid talks. He runs.
Well, what caught my attention, Auntie Shar's attention, is when he said that he should be embarrassed for not being the starting quarterback. Well, when Shedeur was back there like this, maybe he was back there saying, well, you won't put me in. You want to keep playing with me, and I told you what I can do. Maybe he wasn't back there going, they won't put me in. You really don't know what was going through his head. If he didn't tell you what he was talking about, then how would you know? Because to me, when a quarterback sits there and says, I know I can play better than these quarterbacks that's playing there, I don't think that they sitting back there.
Did the miming go viral for the wrong reasons? Maybe. Did it prove a point? Absolutely. It showed how silence can be interpreted in 1,000 chaotic ways, especially when the story was already written before he walked in the room. It wasn't about whether Shedeur was ready to play, it was about whether the public was ready to let him speak on his own terms or not speak at all. And that's what made this silent protest so powerful. Because in a world that demands constant sound, Shadur made waves by standing still. To the casual viewer, Shedur's miming looked like trolling, maybe even arrogance. But Mary Kay peeled the curtain back and revealed something deeper, something most people completely missed. This wasn't about disrespect, it was about restraint. Mary Kay explained that Shedeur's silence wasn't just aimed at critics like Rex Ryan, it was aimed at the media machine itself, a system that twists natural confidence into a red flag, then blames players for reacting. Think about it. If Shedeur had spoken at that podium, what would have happened? Every sentence would have been dissected, spun, and fed into the same fire that's been burning around him since draft day. Even if he'd said all the right things, someone would have found a way to turn it into a headline. Overconfident backup talks like a starter. Shadur Sanders still doesn't get it.
Seem that way, and I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who believe that this what he's saying to be true, because that's the exact sort of narrative around Shedeur that is reportedly why he got drafted in the 5th round and wasn't a day 2 pick at the very least, because they don't think his attitude was very good. But what's interesting is when you talk to Shedeur, when you hear the Browns talk about Shedeur, all you sort of see is a guy who's out there, during training camp, he was out there early on the field, he was out there late after practice. He talks about how, like, all the things he's learned, how, yes, he would prefer to be starting, but that, what he's doing right now, he's learned a lot from, and he's continuing to show up every day, and, like, God, he's leaving it in God's hands, whatever the situation's going to be.
Mary Kay drove that point home. She talked about a moment during training camp, a small, simple interaction that no one else noticed. Another player was speaking to the media, cameras flashing, and Shedeur walked by. He didn't strut in front of the cameras. He didn't steal the moment. He quietly told the PR team, "Hey, I'm not going to speak until he's done." That isn't diva behavior. That's awareness. He knows how the spotlight works. He knows how quickly narratives get distorted. And instead of fueling the fire, he chose patience. He chose strategy. He chose silence, even if that silence ended up making just as much noise. Mary Kay also reminded everyone that this is new territory for Shedeur. For the first time in his playing career, he's not the face of a franchise. He's not the starter. He's not even QB2. That switch from being a college star and Heisman hopeful to watching from the sidelines doesn't flip easily. And yet, instead of lashing out or throwing public tantrums, he's staying in the building, grinding behind the scenes, doing everything the team is asking of him.
Cleveland fans and certain NFL front offices are tired of Shadur Sanders. That message doesn't come from out of the sky. Somebody wanted Rex to say it, and Rex delivered it eloquently. It went viral, and guys, I gotta tell you, the evidence that they use supporting it puts Shedeur in a bad position. This isn't just Rex going rogue. This is TV, guys. It's narrative. It's business. ESPN is feeding the same energy. The NFL is already putting out there. ESPN is a huge major media partner with the NFL. The NFL puts out there what they want ESPN to say.
Sure, the mimes drew attention for the wrong reasons. But once Mary Kay connected the dots, people started seeing it differently. That wasn't a meltdown. That was a message. And most people completely missed it until she pointed it out. Let's talk about the double standard. Because if Rex Ryan had gotten that fired up about a veteran QB, the narrative would have been passion, or tough love from a former coach. But aim that same energy at a 1-year-old backup who's barely been in the league a year. Suddenly, it hits completely different. Rex, a guy with decades in the game, can unload a wild, unfiltered take without a second thought. He can mock a young player's body language, question his mindset, and call him an embarrassment. And for the most part, he'll walk away from it untouched. But when Shadur Sanders, a rookie with everything to prove and everything to lose, stays silent and crosses his arms during a press conference, that silence gets interpreted as immaturity, ego, or lacking leadership. Why is that? Why do seasoned media personalities get to say whatever they want with zero accountability, while players, especially young, confident, black quarterbacks like Shedeur, get picked apart for their expressions, their tone, even their posture? Mary Kay subtly called that hypocrisy out. She didn't yell, she didn't accuse, she just laid out the facts.
All right, so the most shocking news of the week for me, pleasantly shocking, Joe Flacco, as I call him, out as Cleveland starter. What? Blown away by that. Wait, they just upset Micah Parsons, Green Bay Packers. It was the upset of the century at Cleveland just a week ago. And now Flacco's out? I get it. They went and got blown out at Detroit, but Detroit, as I just mentioned, hottest team in pro football.
And when you hear them side by side, the imbalance is hard to ignore. Think about it. Shadur shows confidence? They say he's arrogant. He acknowledges he could start in the NFL right now. They say he's delusional. He says nothing. They call him a clown. There's no winning when the critics move the goalposts in real time. And let's be honest, this isn't just about football. This is how public image gets shaped. One viral clip, one hot take, and suddenly a player's attitude is considered a red flag. Not because of facts, not because of actions, but because someone with a platform said so and said it loudly. Mary Kay's response wasn't just a defense of Shedeur, it was a reminder. That critique without evidence is just noise. And that too many young athletes are forced to be perfect while the people judging them make mistakes on live TV with no consequences. The truth? If confidence makes people uncomfortable, that's not a player problem, it's a system problem, one that's been in place for years. And sometimes, it takes moments like this when the noise gets too loud for the flaws in that system to finally stand out. By now, everyone's seen the clip. The miming, the silence, the moment that made Shadur Sanders trend for all the wrong reasons. But what most people didn't see or didn't want to see was what the moment actually revealed. Because this wasn't just a funny, overanalyzed post-practice stunt. This was the perfect trigger in a system that feeds on controversy. and rewards the right voices for saying the wrong things. Let's break that down. The viral moment didn't explode just because people thought it was weird. It blew up because it confirmed a narrative the league has been quietly building, that Shedeur is a problem. Too cocky, too unpredictable, too unapologetic. So when he stayed silent on camera, the interpretation wasn't neutral. It wasn't even curious. It was preloaded with judgment. The narrative was already in place. The clip just gave everyone a reason to pounce. And guess who jumped in right on cue? Rex Ryan. Now, here's where it gets weird and strategic. When Rex went off on Shedeur, it felt like just another analyst dropping a classic rant. But some fans started asking, was this really just his take, or was it something Rex was handed? Because let's not forget, ESPN and the NFL are more than just partners. They're media mirrors for each other. One creates headlines, the other creates the stage. It's not far-fetched to believe that narratives, especially the ones that build or break young players, get pushed from the top down. And when it comes to someone like Shadur Sanders, the stakes are even higher. He's not just another rookie, he's the son of Deion Sanders. He represents something bigger: swagger, new school football culture, NIL success, media awareness, and a refusal to dim his light for people who don't like how bright it shines. None of that fits the humble backup mold the league usually prefers. And when uncomfortable confidence meets traditional media, the outcome isn't analysis, it's backlash. So ask yourself, did Rex Ryan really just take it too far? Or was he delivering a message that someone, somewhere, wanted, said out loud? Because sometimes the loudest voices in the room aren't just speaking for themselves, they're speaking for the machine behind the curtain. Mary Kay picked up on that too. She didn't say it outright, but the tone was clear. This story isn't just about one bad clip. It's about how easily narratives can be bent to fit a convenient, click-ready frame, especially when there's money, ratings, and control at stake. Because while Shedeur was out there miming in silence, the NFL machine was already scripting what it wanted the moment to mean. Here's the kicker. The very same day Rex's rant started gaining traction, media pages started flooding timelines with old pics of Shedeur sitting, standing, arms crossed, smirking during warm-ups, or laughing on the bench. All innocent moments suddenly repurposed as evidence, as if body language alone is enough to break down someone's entire identity. It was a setup, a story already written just looking for footage to fill in the gaps. And that's the real problem. Shedeur didn't create a media storm, he walked into one that was waiting for him, and by choosing silence, he unintentionally triggered every storyline the NFL culture machine had lined up. This isn't about whether the miming was smart or dumb. It's about how content becomes currency, and how young players like Shedeur end up as headline fuel even when they say absolutely nothing at all. In a world where athletes are expected to talk, explain, react, and perform on cue, Shadur Sanders did the unthinkable. He went silent, and somehow, that silence said everything. It's rare that you see a moment play out in real time that feels like a chess move, not a tantrum. But that was exactly what made Shedeur's miming so disarming. While everyone else was waiting for a quote they could tear apart, he gave them nothing, just folded arms, tight lips, and gestures that barely made sense until you realized what they really meant. It wasn't a meltdown, it was a rejection. A rejection of the fake rules. The invisible ones that say rookies have to bite their tongues, play the media game, nod politely when criticized, even when they're being publicly dissected by talking heads who haven't worn shoulder pads in years. Shedeur wasn't just trolling Rex Ryan, he was dodging the trap. Because when he talks, they twist his words. When he's confident, they paint him as cocky. When he's quiet, he's childish. The rules were already rigged. The only way to win was to not play. The brilliance is this: Shedeur made silence speak. And not just to his followers, to his critics, to executives, to the entire media ecosystem. What made the miming genius isn't that it was flawless, it wasn't. The moment was awkward, polarizing, and easily misread. But that's exactly why it worked. Because everyone tried to read it, and the longer people stared at it, the clearer it became that they were just projecting. He didn't give them a script to spin, no pity quotes, no snapbacks. Just a subtle kind of power, letting the media flail while he stood still. But there's a dangerous side to that silence too. Because silence is a blank canvas. It invites interpretation. And in today's content-obsessed culture, interpretation often becomes the story. Instead of asking Shedeur what he meant, the internet just filled in the silence with its own assumptions, loud, emotional, and often wrong. Rex Ryan interpreted it one way as ego. Mary Kay saw it completely differently as controlled restraint. And fans? Somewhere in the middle. Some got it, some bashed it, some just liked the drama. That's the risk with silence. It commands attention, but it also cedes control. When you don't explain yourself, the world will explain you, usually with whatever version of you fits their agenda. And yet, Shedeur still chose silence. Because sometimes the only way to stop being misunderstood is to stop giving them anything to misunderstand. It's a bold play, especially when reputation is currency and the NFL is watching everything. Teams draft personas, not just players. They invest in storylines, sell jersey sales, and craft public images just as much as scouting reports. So every time Shedeur zips his lips instead of snapping back, he's not just protecting himself, he's betting that long-term poise will outlast short-term firestorms. It's not about being perfect, it's about being in control. And if we're being honest, that kind of control, at 21 years old, that's rare. Especially in a league where grown men lose their cool over press conferences and podcasts. Maybe the mimes felt confusing or immature at first glance. But look again, Shadur wasn't throwing a fit, he was making a point. In silence, there is power. And in a world obsessed with sound bites, sometimes the real statement is the one you don't say out loud. At this stage of his journey, Shadur Sanders isn't just managing pressure, he's managing perception. And in today's NFL, that might be the most important skill off the field. Because let's face it, talent isn't the only thing teams care about. It never has been. Teams don't just scout how well you throw a ball, they track how you walk into a room, how you answer uncomfortable questions, how your name trends on Twitter after a post-game loss. And Shedeur? He's already playing in that league, even without starter reps. What makes his situation unique is that it's more than football. He's carrying a legacy. He's Deion Sanders' son. That name gets him attention, good and bad, before he even touches the ball. It opens doors, sure, but it also loads expectations onto his shoulders like a weight vest. One mistake and the headlines aren't about Shedeur the player, they're about Shedeur the problem. That's why every move matters more. The silence? It wasn't just a reaction, it was self-preservation, a message wrapped inside restraint. But now, the real challenge begins. Learning when that approach helps him, and when it could hurt him. Because here's the truth, silence works once, maybe twice. But in the long run, quarterbacks don't get remembered for dodging the media. They get remembered for owning their moments, controlling the microphone instead of avoiding it. Shedeur will need to master not just the silence, but the timing. When to speak, what to say, how to shape the conversation instead of just surviving it. That's the line between potential and presence. And you can already see him working through it. From the quiet grind behind the scenes at Browns camp to reports of him putting in late hours and treating the position with intention even while sitting at QB3. He's watching, learning, staying ready. Because whether people want to admit it or not, this moment is a pivot point. He can either become the guy who's remembered for miming through a presser, or the guy who used media noise as fuel, waited for his shot, and made them all eat their words. That comes down to legacy thinking, the ability to zoom out when everyone else is zoomed in, and stay locked in even when the world's tearing you apart for not living up to a timeline they created. It's also about play. That's what will shut everyone up. Because when Shedeur finally gets that opportunity, whether it's in Cleveland or somewhere else, none of the noise matters if those passes connect. If he commands the huddle, if the offense hums under his signal calling, in this league, nothing speaks louder than a winning drive. So here's what he has to master next. Know when silence protects and when it isolates. Speak with purpose, not volume. Trust your skill, but protect your story. Turn criticism into confrontation, not against the media, but against the doubt. Mary Kay may have won the media round, but Shedeur still controls the bigger picture. His arc isn't being written by tweets or rants, it's formed in how he responds, step by step, play by play. Because in the NFL, reputation follows you longer than stats ever do. And if Shedeur learns to own both his voice and his fire, he won't just bounce back from a viral moment. He'll rewrite the narrative completely.